Williamson, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today. Your presentation this morning was extremely informative. For those who may not have been lucky enough to have been a part of it, could you just touch upon some of the points you made really in regards to the key priorities that the Army currently has in its modernization program?
Sure. So if I were to offer anything about the presentation, it would be two things. First, the absolute commitment by the United States Army to armored vehicles. We consider it to be critical in terms of our formations as we go forward. The second thing would be how we look at modernization and modernization strategy. We have a model that we use, a 5-pyramid model that allows us to take a look at the investments we make within a portfolio. In the armored combat vehicle portfolio, we start with looking at divestiture. What are those systems that we have today that we know either don't have the capabilities, cost too much logistically to support, or at end of life that we're going to divest of? So that's where we start. And then we take a look at, of the existing platforms that we have, what's the investment that we have to make to keep those running and in good order? That's the second layer. The third layer is the modification of existing platforms. So for various reasons, end of life for some of the subsystems, new capabilities that allow us to save money or add lethality or add mobility. Those are the investments we make, those upgrades, those incremental upgrades that we make to our existing fleet. The Abrams, the Bradley, the Stryker come to mind. Also the PIM, the Paladin Integrated Management System. The next layer that we talked about today has to do with new systems. Two come out specifically: the Joint Tactical Lightweight Vehicle, JLTV, and the AMP-V, which has 5 variants, are the 2 new systems that we're buying. We are absolutely committed to moving forward with those. And then the final part of that pyramid, the 5th layer, is the investment we make in science and technology. I refer to it as our seed corn. It's the investment we make with industry. It's the investment that we make with academia in terms of looking at what's the next leap ahead technologies that we will put into our armored vehicles to give us a decisive advantage over our enemies. So think of it in terms of new metals, new protection systems, things that reduce the cost to operation. Those are all investments that we're making. I think that would be the 2 main points that I would take away from this morning's session.
Obviously, having an acquisition model is vital, but of course the future is very hard to predict. I'm wondering, how flexible is that model to adapt to challenges that perhaps you don't know at the moment, especially as you underscored this notion of affordability being fundamental to this?
It's a great question, and I think this is one of the reasons why that model works so well for us, is that if you kind of divide up your investment strategy between the investment in longer range systems and then those systems that you're going to divest, and then the investment that we're going to make to current platforms, upgrades, and then the procurement of new, what it gives us is some flexibility in terms of where that investment will go. And so let me just give one example. If in part of the pyramid on new systems that the technology isn't quite as mature as we want it to be, we can make the decision to invest more in upgrading existing systems and still give more capabilities to our soldiers. And so I think the model that I've described gives us a lot of flexibility.
And finally, if we just touch on the summit of that pyramid, you talked about science and technology, the need to discuss these issues with academia, with the industry. Given that that's why we're here today, what benefits have you seen from being in attendance?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was just having this discussion with one of the other officers. So there's really a couple of interesting points about this conference. One, you brought some really quality, talented, knowledgeable speakers. I'm not counting myself. I'm talking about the people that have spoken today. So that's one aspect. You're going to learn from them. But the part that I really value is the interaction that occurs among the attendees and some of the speakers. So you don't get all of these people in the same room as a normal course of business. And so having the opportunity to come together for a couple of days with some of the leading minds in this business is really valuable. And that's what I've taken out of this.
Well, you may downplay it, but we are very fortunate to have you here, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate it.